when we first met and I heard about, oh, okay, you have these issues with trolls, and I thought it was just sort of this run of the mill, like, well, it's just, internet's the internet. And then I remember looking at your page and I was like, wow, okay, this is like,
Yeah.
you're getting like it constantly. And then when I found out that, as you're saying, your kids are getting targeted, your husband, where you live is being, you're being doxxed.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people don't always think about the psychological, the mental impact of being targeted. I mean, people think that it's just online, but again, you were being targeted also in person. So,
Mhm.
how would you sort of describe that experience from both the emotional and psychological part of it, but also like the logistical part? Like, were there things that you had to
Right.
change, and things that your family had to change because of this giant target on your back?
Well, I think it's a good question, and I think we need to talk more about it because um, there's a lot of hate right now, and people are getting targeted. It's not just me, obviously. Journalists are getting targeted. Anybody who's covering the alt right, right, you become a target, and it is American-born terrorism is what it is. And terrorism, I mean, the purpose of it is to shut people down, and also, to hurt people. Um, and we're not good at dealing with it as a country, and especially for certain groups of people. If you're a woman of color, if you're trans, we're all under attack right now. Um, and so what immediately it did for me and Gabriella, we've talked about this, is um, basically folks are launching information attacks, and those aren't new, right? You think of COINTELPRO and, like, the Black Panther Party. It's not like smear campaigns have never happened before, but they're happening in a way that's just kind of on steroids with the ability, with online, you can manufacture people, right? They're not even real. You can do a GAN image that's like a made up person. You make up a sock puppet account pretending to be something. You can do, there's troll farms. All the stuff I've learned about last year that I didn't know about is an extension of this Gamergate culture where if you want to target somebody online, you can, like, it's like the Matrix, where I don't know which episode, but there was the one where, like, Neo was fighting, I can't remember his name, the guy
Agent
who
Smith?
all of a sudden there was like 100 of them that he
Yeah.
was fighting, right? It's like that's like online. That is like what it's like on Twitter. And that's what happened to me and Gabriella, where, I mean, there are people who didn't like me. I was like, okay, fine, we don't agree. Um, they say mean things at board meetings, and there was maybe 10 of them in San Francisco. Um, all of a sudden we were being targeted, and it was like nonstop. And then it was people who commented or liked what I was saying, they were getting doxxed. And they're just like a parent, that's on the PTA at a local school. And then they were saying, I had one person who asked me to take down their comment on a Facebook post because their boss called them into a meeting and said, I heard you were supporting a racist. It's just like, so it wasn't just me that was getting targeted. The student delegate was getting targeted. Her mother was, I guess her business was being targeted. And then I think a few months in, so Gabrielle and I both just kind of shut down. We just, like, stopped engaging because it wasn't safe at all. It was like duck and cover kind of thing. And then, we started realizing that, in a way, I mean, that's what we do. I mean, we're very transparent people. We ran because we're connected to the community, and we wanted to provide access and a seat at the table. And so the way that we communicate, like, Gabriella was very active on Instagram. She was really good on there, and she would ask questions, and the community would respond, and, via DM and things. There was this engagement, and we just stopped talking. And so all of a sudden, I stopped talking to the people that I normally share information with, and I was cut off. And also, that's a support network for me. Black Twitter and, like, edu Twitter is a place where I get support when I feel like, when I'm in a really white space, like sometimes I go back east and visit my husband's family in Boston, and everyone's really nice, but it's very white, it's, and I'm like, I need some Black people. I go online, and there's, like, I get all my Black stuff, and I'm happy. And I feel like that's what we do, that's how we survive. I think a lot of us online is, we can find our community, even if it's not where we live, we can find them. There's an online space that maybe and you've done that, I think, really well. You've created these spaces where we can, maybe you don't have it locally, but you can have it, and I was cut off from that at a time when I most needed support. I didn't have it because it wasn't safe. And then it also wasn't safe for the people that I was connected to. I started worrying that if I retweeted a friend of mine who's an Asian American, educator, who's like anti-racist educator, if I retweet them, they were getting harassed and targeted by the same people who are, it's so crazy, by the same people who are saying that I was anti-Asian. They were most likely to target Asian American colleagues of mine online because it's like, you can't like her, and we're going to blow everything up. And then I started realizing that some of the people that were retweeting me were actually like national people. These aren't just local crackpot people. There are some national alt-right people that were retweeting me. And so then, people, I think, not even from San Francisco, but that follow this kind of stuff, started reaching out and saying, hey, we're noticing some really weird activity on your Twitter account. It's not organic. Like, we look at the retweets and there's ways you can analyze it because it's all open source. This is like a targeted campaign. And I know that it's been happening with Chesa Boudin. There's a recall for him. He's a district attorney in San Francisco. It's just some of the same kind of crazy energy, or it's like this automatic, these people aren't here to engage. They're here to shut things down and to kind of cyberbully. And I've also seen the similar activity is in Fairfax County. It's Fairfax County, Virginia. There's pockets, and then SoCal, there's some pockets, people started sharing, yeah, we're seeing like this weird activity with some of these accounts. And so what's really scary is that like some of the people that were retweeting, they're alt-right influencers. And for people who don't know, in a way, it's like they'll put your stuff on 4chan or Kiwi Farms or some of these places. The purpose of it is to have somebody in real life hurt you. So if people, that say, oh, it's just sticks and stones, like when you dehumanize somebody on a regular basis, you're basically communicating to folks that are not stable that it's okay to kind of enact whatever kind of violent fantasy you have. That's a good target. And when you think about history, and this is why I think it's been this is the most sad thing, is just, after I got attacked, information attacked, whether you agree or disagree with my viewpoints, I don't talk about other people. I don't talk about, individuals. I talk about policies. But when you like over and over, just disparage somebody, and like I said, even like Trump, like I didn't like him, but just to over and over do that, you're basically, like I said, you're making it safe in a way for people to cause physical harm. And so that is what has happened to me is in the supermarket. Some guy, he cussed me out in front of my daughter. I don't even know him. Like, you don't have to like me, but I was driving and somebody like literally kind of, cornered me in his car. Right. And so this is like unsafe physical behavior. And the people that have retweeted my account are associated with shootings in Washington. They're associated with alt-right accounts that are associated with insurrectionists and people who show up, at people's houses, like, or beat up journalists. And so that has been very scary. And I have kids too. So, I've been very vocal about them when I was starting the blog, because I was a mom blogger. I talk about my kids and like what I make for lunch and where they go to school. And then all of a sudden I'm like, holy shit, do I have to go through and like, I've been online for a really long time and I'm very open. I think like you, like that's kind of, I believe in transparent. That's my husband's very private, that's him. But for me, it's like, I'm a talker. I like sharing my experience and modeling that and like learning from other people. And then I think, God, I've made my family vulnerable. And well, I didn't do it, but other people have. And there are people actively talking about where my kids go to school on purpose, right? And I put pictures of them up online. And so that becomes in my husband's business. Like, he doesn't have anything to do with the school board or my views on social media, and or my friends, right, who've retweeted me or don't like the recall, and they are getting targeted. Their kids are getting targeted. I have one friend, her child is trans, and these recallers keep talking about where her kid goes to school, and then it's on a thread with all these people saying anti-trans stuff. And it's like, how do I know some kook isn't going to come out of the woodwork and like target their kid, like that's messed up. And what's been, I think, really, I think, disheartening is maybe you would expect this kind of behavior in the South. And that is a stereotype, I want to say, but it's happening in San Francisco and nobody seems to care. Like if they're targeting me, if they're targeting even a white mom who's against the recall, like nobody seems to care that we have some serious like alt-right. We have Trumpers in San Francisco, and we have people from outside of San Francisco who are like associated with real violence. And the Chronicle's not interested in it. The Examiner's not interested in it. Like nobody cares. Like they don't care. What they care about is that there's a mom who's angry that her kid had to do Zoom school. And yeah, that's a valid experience, and it should be covered in the news. But to cover that and then not to cover the fact that like Gabriela Lopez, I mean, she literally like daily we get emails that say, fucking nigger, go back to Africa or whatever. And she gets emails that are, because she's younger, she gets emails that are like, you should be raped and decapitated. Like literally, those are the emails she gets. It's not healthy for anyone to get those types of emails. I know that my male colleagues are also getting some angry emails, but they're not getting any amount of that number. And as I said, it's not just about me. Like we have students who serve on our school board as student representatives, and they are vulnerable because companies like Twitter and Facebook and, I guess Instagram, have really lax safety rules. And a lot of times those safety rules end up targeting people of color. Like I got flagged for talking about race, but all the people who are, naming themselves after roof Koreans, which is like, I guess a euphemism for shooting Black people, like that's fine. The N-word is all over the internet, but if you're a Black person and you use it, like your account gets flagged. So, it just, I think it's really, it's made me more emboldened in a way to keep speaking because I think I don't want people to shut me down. And at the same time, it's also made me feel a lot less safe in the world.